everyone. Welcome to the latest installment of our new editorial webinar series, Coffee Talk. Each hour-long, information-packed episode curated by our editors features the insights and observations of an independent expert on a wide range of tech industry topics. Many thanks to the underwriting sponsor of this episode, Metallic, an up-and-coming Commvault venture, provider of a SaaS portfolio for enterprise-grade backup and recovery designed to protect your data from corruption, deletion, ransomware, and any other threat out there. Without their support, this series would not be possible. And thanks to you for joining us. I'm John K. Waters, Editor-in-Chief of the Converge 360 Group of 1105 Media, publisher of the enormously popular Redmond magazine, among other tech trade tomes, and I'll be your moderator. Today's topic, why hybrid cloud and why now? And our main speaker is Mr. Howard M. Cohen. Before we get started, a bit of housekeeping. This episode is being recorded for later access. Keep an eye out for an email with a link to that recording. It'll be coming your way in the next few days. We'll make some time during the talk for some questions. Please feel free to type your questions into the Q&A box anytime. We'll do our best to get to all of them. We've got a second speaker today, so we'll do a Q&A for that presentation as well. Just feel free, anytime the spirit moves you, to pop your question into that box. Okay. And I want to remind you that our sponsor, Metallic, has provided some extra resources that can be found on the right-hand side of your screen. Be sure to check those out. And as a small thank you to all attendees who stick with us to the end, we will be sending you a $5 gift certificate to Starbucks. It's a cup of joe to go with the info. Now let's meet our main speaker, technologist, content creator, and senior resultant, Howard M. Cohen. In his 35 years in the IT industry, Howard has held senior executive positions in many of the top channel partner organizations, and he currently writes for and about IT and the IT channel. Howard is a sought-after speaker, an insightful observer of the technology landscape, and one of our very favorite presenters. Take it away, Howard.
Thank you, John, and hello, everybody. Those of you who have been to a presentation of mine previously know that I always like to start with a word, focusing in on a particular word that has something to do with our topic that day. And today's topic is why hybrid, why now? And you'd think then that today's word would obviously be hybrid. But no, I've got to be a contrarian. Before we get started and get to today's word, I just wanted to do a little bit of definition of terms. In this case, I wanted to define hybrid. So I went to the source, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, and here is their definition of hybrid. It's basically two or more different kinds of clouds and on-premises, all mixed together, but working together to perform the necessary services and deliver the necessary solutions. So that is their definition. In other words, it's a mix of private cloud, and a private cloud, of course, is all for one company. A public cloud. Public clouds are available to everybody. You subscribe to them, you get your services from them, and hopefully when you're finished, you remember to release those services so you're not paying for them because you only pay for what you use. And then still on-premises resources as well. When we mix those up, that's hybrid. Okay, but today's word is not hybrid. Instead, today's word is agile. And no, it's not agile because I like to feature pictures of dogs. I do. I admit it freely. But because agile is a very important concept when using hybrid networks. What do I mean? How does hybrid relate to agility, to being agile? And for that, I've arranged a couple of clouds here on the screen, a couple of different clouds, most or all of which we're all familiar with. And I didn't include an on-premises cloud, so I thought that would confuse everybody. So, just take it from me. There's on-premises going on here somewhere. Why do people want to use more than one of these? Why would you want to use more than one cloud? Doesn't one cloud suffice? And the answer really is, why do you shop at more than one store? When you go out shopping for a new shirt, why might you stop at Kohl's and then go over to Target and maybe Macy's, and of course end up at Amazon because that's where everybody buys everything these days? And the answer is, of course, the best selection. The shirt you want may not be at Kohl's, but you may find it at Target. You may want to get a shirt that you find at Target, but the pants you pick up, they're from Macy's. You don't want to be limited to one store. You want to be able to get what you want from wherever it happens to be. In other words, you want choices. You want to have your choice of the products available at all these different stores. And similarly, you want to have your choice of all the services that are available in different clouds and different kinds of clouds. So that's why people tend to go to more than one cloud at a time. So now we're ready to answer today's question, which is why hybrid cloud and why now? And I mean, it's kind of, I know it's odd to ask why now because people have been using hybrid cloud since cloud was introduced, a couple of decades now. But let's answer the question. Let's break it into two pieces to answer it clearly. Why hybrid cloud? Well, we all started with on-prem. We all had our servers and our storage and our routers and our switches and our uninterruptible power supplies and all the different things we need to run our own network in-house. And we were happy with that for many years. Then we got the opportunity to subscribe to some services over the internet. So instead of running an office application or an office suite on our own premises, we could reach out over the internet and get that from, well, in this case, Microsoft. We could get Office 365 from the cloud. And that was the first public service that most people use in business. Of course, I mentioned Amazon earlier. Amazon is public cloud as well, and we all use it. Okay, so now we're using a lot of applications from the cloud, of course, the internet, still using some things on our own premises, and we find out more about private cloud. Private cloud is meant for just one company, yours. It may be housed in a cloud service. You may use private cloud in the Amazon environment or in the Azure environment, the Google environment. However, that's not necessarily the case. I mean, you may use private cloud on your own premises. In 2012, Satya Nadella was in charge of the Systems and Tools division of Microsoft, and he was responsible for things like Windows Server, which he told us was the Cloud OS. That's 10 years ago. The Cloud OS. And what he meant was that you can use Windows Server to build a private cloud because it adheres to all the requirements set forth in the NIST, our friends at NIST, definition of cloud computing. And the NIST definition of cloud computing details everything you need to have for your cloud to be a private cloud. It says nothing about it being remote. Okay, so even though we're on-prem, we may have private cloud running there. We may have it at a co-location facility. We may have public cloud services, all kinds of public cloud services. We may have high availability service. We may have data backup services, all kinds of services available either to the public cloud or we're running them on premises. Okay. Because there's so much flexibility here, because you can be running all these different things, I don't know of any environment right now that's just sticking to one. And one of you it may be that one of you who are out there today watching this, all you use is private cloud. That's it. Everything you do in private cloud. I'd love to know about that. Maybe all you do is in public cloud. I'd like to know about that. But to my mind, everything is hybrid. Everywhere you go. The moment you signed up for Office 365, you became a hybrid environment. The moment you started shopping on Amazon, you became a hybrid environment. in the context of computing. So if everything is hybrid, the public cloud, private cloud, on-prem, if all of that creates your hybrid cloud, then why now? Why are we making such a big deal about it? And my honest answer, my upfront answer is, why not? Why not hybrid? Everything is hybrid anyway. So let's acknowledge that and let's take the best possible advantage of it. We already talked about the fact that when you're in a hybrid environment, you've got broader choice. You can pick and choose your services from a variety, a huge variety, really, of different resources, of different places, different services, different systems. Your choice. You bring those together, and basically you're bringing them together consolidates them, gets them working together, gets them serving you together. You're integrating them. This is one of the reasons that we say that interoperability is the watchword of the future and today. Interoperability is everything. Everybody's striving for interoperability, so it becomes easy to use one service with another, and getting them all coordinated and getting them all working nicely and playing nicely in the sandbox. They all, for the most part, feature rapid provision. So you can very easily reach out and get the service you want and add it to your environment. And of course, scaling becomes simple because you just subscribe to more. You just keep on adding more. It's a matter of filling out a form and checking some boxes. Much easier than the old days when it took ordering, installing, and configuring new hardware. It's very portable. The fact is, you don't care where these clouds are. One may be in Europe, another one in Asia, the other here domestically in the United States. It doesn't matter to you. It may matter to you if you're responsible for minimizing latency, but that's a really critical edge to carve. So by and large, it doesn't really matter to you. Wherever you are, you can access the services you need to do what you need to do. That's great. It's very adaptable. You know, if one service doesn't do exactly what you want, you can switch to another. It's flexible. You can add and change as you need to. You can grow and shrink. You can scale up. You can scale out. Again, that concept of agility. You can make the decision to do what you need to do and do it pretty easily. Integration, of course, is the foundation to all of it. You know, you've got to be able to integrate these things to work together. Otherwise, you simply have a list of services. The real value comes when you start to integrate them and get them working together to give you that magical greater technology gestalt that comes when you combine good services together. Automation integrates you. Now you take a step, the automation takes over from there and does the rest of what has to happen, feeds back an answer to you, and you go on. You're going to see more and more automation as we continue to perform our digital transformations, where we add automation to our environment to make our lives easier. And make no mistake, it's not the digital equipment that we're transforming, it's us. It's how we do things and how easy and how fast and how effective we can be in the ways in which we live, work, and play. All of this, of course, requires orchestration, and so you see a lot of different services coming out that make it easy for you to orchestrate software, orchestrate data, orchestrate all the different things that have to work together to make things happen. In terms of infrastructure, it's interesting how all of this changes your involvement with infrastructure. It used to be that the answer to everything was throw more infrastructure at it. Today, your infrastructure is getting smaller and smaller the more you're using cloud. You don't need as much infrastructure. You're not connecting as many things in your own environment. Pretty much the only connection you need is to the internet, which then connects you to all of your clouds, and the integration takes place there. the potential, I use the word potential very carefully here, is that we're going to be able to bring all these things together and manage them together. If we're going to be really successful at creating our own hybrid cloud environment, we're going to have to be able to manage it in a coordinated, consolidated way, that single pane of glass that everybody talks about. So when we're creating this hybrid cloud, what are we looking for? First and foremost, we're looking for control. The more services you add, the more you have to keep track of, the more you want to make sure you've got control over how everything is working. You know, there are all kinds of statistics that tell us that unbelievable percentages of any given infrastructure are absolutely invisible to those responsible for managing that infrastructure. That's bad. We need to have that visibility. We need to be able to see everything that we're working with if we're going to be able to control everything that we're working with. And that will allow us to optimize performance, minimize latency, and minimize cost. Again, we're looking for flexibility. You want to be able to get on and get off, request resources, use them, and then release them. You want to be able to move very, very, very quickly and without a lot of obstacles, without a lot of things getting in the way. So you want a very flexible environment. I can't emphasize cost-effective enough. Ultimately, every last one of us is measured in some way, shape, or form by how cost-effectively we get done what we do. Saving money is a universal value. Everybody wants to save money. It's natural. And so the cloud systems we use, those resources we use, should make it easy for us to be as cost-effective as we possibly can be. And yeah, we want to make things as easy as possible. The easier it is, the more flexible it is. The more flexible it is, the more agility we achieve. So we want to make it easy to get to the cloud. We want to make it easy to use cloud services. We want to make it easy to use cloud services together. And one of the big advantages of cloud is that you don't have to make one big, massive forklift move from one place to another. You can very gradually, step by step, workload by workload, move from on-premises to cloud, from one cloud to another, however you see fit, based on your business rules, your business circumstances, and your needs. So that's what we want to achieve by moving to cloud. So how do we leverage this hybrid cloud environment to optimize our agility? What's the strategy for making this all work as well as possible? And let me suggest to you that first and foremost, before you do anything else, the first thing you need to do is to choose wisely. As Sir Richard, was that his name? Says here, he chose wisely. What does that mean? The fact is there are hundreds, actually there are thousands of services, maybe millions of services at this point. But each of the hyperscalers, each of the big clouds, Amazon, Azure, Google, and so forth, they each offer hundreds of services. And it's wonderful. Anything you want to do, they have services to help you do it. Some of those services are available across all platforms. If you're subscribed to one service on a given hyperscaler, there's other services there that you can use. Absolutely. Some are only available from one or two of them. Therefore, if you're subscribed to one, but the service you want is only available on another, say you subscribe to both. That's the beauty of a hybrid environment. You just do. And there's really nothing stopping you from doing it as long as you can bring together all the necessary specifications. Some of those services are actually designed for hybrid environments. They all do have different specifications. You have to fulfill all of them, but it's relatively easy to do so. It's all pretty clear, and there's plenty of help out there to make it easier for you to bring together the services you need to bring together to solve the business challenges you need to solve. If the integration doesn't exactly exist, they all have application programming interfaces available so that you can have the connection fashioned for you. You can develop your own bridge between services from different clouds. So again, that flexibility is there. Don't limit your thinking to the quote unquote the cloud you're on. You're not necessarily on any given cloud. You're on cloud. So you have your choice of clouds. There are plenty of them. You can pick and choose all the ones you want to use all the time. Remember that they have different cost structures. Going back to that concept of being cost effective, you will need to have a financial manager on your cloud management team. No matter what you do, if you are an organization of any kind of size, you want somebody who spends their time looking out for the next special program from one of the cloud providers, the new price reductions that are coming out for different kinds of services, different reserved instances, for example. Those prices are changing regularly. They generally are trending downward, and you can take advantage of them if you know they've come out. And so, have somebody keeping a close eye on that. Remember as you do that they don't all use the same names for things. You may find that all three of the big hyperscalers have a service by the same name. But then when you look at the services, they're three very different services. You really have to look at the definitions of the services to make sure that you know that you're talking about what you're talking about. On the flip side, they may all have the same service, but they may all call it by different names. So this is not simple. This requires homework. This requires somebody really focusing on what the cloud providers are doing, how they're doing it, and what's available. So, when people say you really need an expert working with you, it may be worth your while. It's probably worth your while to engage with external resources who spend all of their time monitoring the cloud services and can bring you the answers that you need. Basically, what I'm saying is that you are free to choose the best solution for each requirement, each business challenge. It could be public, it could be private, it could be on-premises, it could be a community cloud, a metro cloud, whatever people are calling them. If it's provided from the cloud through the internet or through dedicated MPLS lines, you can take advantage of it. You can integrate it into your environment. So create an engine in your organization, one way or another, that can help you reach out and pick and choose the best combination from wherever those services come from. Okay, so one of the questions, now that we've looked at all these services and all these things we can do, all these applications, if you will, and all these workload types, one of the big questions that comes up all the time is, where do you store the data? Not for nothing, but you're using one application from a public cloud. You're using another application from a private cloud. You're using yet another from your on-premises implementations. You're using several different clouds, several different services. So which one do you decide to store the data at? It's an interesting question. Why is it so important? Because data is indeed the new bacon. Everybody values data very highly. Everybody loves their data. And for good reason. Data is the most valuable asset any company owns. Data about your customers, data about your transactions, data about your designs, data about your products, all your research data, competitive data. These are the assets that really run your business. And so you've really got to focus on it. Anything that's of such high value, you've got to manage it closely. So wherever you're going to decide to put your data, wherever you're going to decide to store your data, and it may be more than one place. Matter of fact, it's advisable, if you're storing your data in one place, to store backups in other places so that you have multiple copies that one will survive if the others do not. It's really a function of what's the platform that you're managing on. Okay, so that platform has got to give you the ability to manage all of your data in context. You want to know what data you have, where that data is, and you want visibility of all of that data, whether it's from a software as a service, whether it's from a locally running application, whether it's from an application you're running on a co-location. It doesn't matter where the application is running, and it doesn't really matter where the data is stored as long as you have total visibility of it. We really no longer refer so much to data backup as we do the data management, because whether it's a copy or the original, however you identify original, it's data. It's your data. And the fact that you have multiple copies is important. Both are critically valuable to you. So you're managing all your data, multiple copies of your data, to protect your enterprise. Going beyond this, we want to consolidate our management of all the data wherever it is. We really want to be able to consolidate our use of cloud wherever it is, whichever clouds we're using. And it's important because there's so much to be managed. You know, if you look at a cloud environment, we talked already about how important it is to manage your costs. It's crucial to manage your cost. You also want to manage your service level agreement so you know what to expect. You know whether or not you should expect that there's going to be some downtime or not. That's crucial. Your hybrid infrastructure, the way in which you connect to everything, has to be closely managed. When we talk about governance, we're talking about managing people and how people use your data and what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. And that's got to be laid out very carefully, documented thoroughly, and you need assurance from all of your users that they've read it, they understand it, and they will abide by it. And everything else you do is meant to enforce it. Obviously, you need to manage your applications. Make sure they're running properly, make sure they're properly hardened, make sure they're not being invaded. Applications are a popular place for cyber criminals to enter into your flow. So you've got to make sure that they're well protected. We already talked about the importance of managing your data. What data entities do you own? How much is each data entity worth? You don't want to spend more protecting a data asset than the data asset is worth. Where is each asset? Where is it resident? When was the last time it was copied to somewhere else? There's all kinds of things that you need to know at any given moment about your data, and you should be able to answer those questions instantly. Add e-discovery into that mix, it's even more important that you be able to retrieve whatever data you need to retrieve quickly enough to satisfy whatever authority is asking you for that data. Compliance and security are the last two that I put up there because I wanted to emphasize that they're not the same thing. And you need two different teams focused on, one on each of them. Compliance means that you're adhering to the rules laid out by your governance, by your own company. Are your people really following the rules? Are they adhering to the important structure you've given them for how data may or may not be used? Second, your software agreements. You sign an end-user license agreement, a EULA, for every application that you invest in. You have to adhere to the rules of that EULA. And so that's the second layer of compliance. And finally, of course, if you're subject to government regulation, you've got to be compliant with that as well. So compliance is a big deal. And of course, security is a huge deal. Is the network properly protected? Can we make sure that the data gets from where it is to where it has to be without being interrupted? Can we make sure that the data is safe when it's at rest in storage? Obviously, the best strategy after everything else is said and done, keep everything encrypted all the time, at rest or in transit. So there's a tremendous amount of management required, even when you're using cloud for everything. You still have to manage it. You still have to secure it. It's your data asset. You're responsible for it. we've gone through somewhat of a sequence when it comes to securing our networks. When we were on-prem, well, everything's behind the firewall. It's all safe. We have intrusion prevention systems. We have anti-malware. We have authentication. We have all kinds of systems protecting everything inside from everybody outside. That's great. But things have changed. And one of the things that has accelerated that change was, of course, the COVID-19 pandemic. For the past two years and change, everybody went home. Many people are still working from home. The vast majority, the statistics are astounding, but the majority of people don't want to come back to the office. They'd rather work from home. They discovered that it's better there. They're more productive there. Some want to go back and forth, work wherever it makes the most sense to work. That's great. You should have that agility. Here we go again, agility. You should be able to pick and choose where you work based on where it's best for you to work. So we now have this remote work revolution where for the foreseeable future, people will work from wherever it makes the most sense for them to work. Having everybody so vastly distributed has given rise to a big change in thinking. We've gotten to the place where we've embraced zero trust. That is not paranoia. As a matter of fact, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean that they're not after you. But that's not paranoia. That is being realistic about the environment that we're in. We're all distributed. We're all kind of standalone. And so therefore, you've got to be very, very, very careful that whoever's accessing your data is who they say they are. And the device that they're using is the device that it says it is. You can't trust anything. Everything must prove itself to you time and time again. This has also given rise to the Secure Access Service Edge, SASE. And SASE is in and of itself a revolution in the way we think about managing networks. SASE brings together the way in which we manage the networks with the way in which we manage security. And it's all one thing. On the network side, we begin with software-defined wide area networking. Software-defined networking is the most flexible, most agile form of networking because we can change based on requirements. We can change based on circumstances. We can change based on conditions. We can change very quickly. We don't have to burn in new firmware. We don't have to change out any hardware. It's all software-based. So we get to a console, we make the necessary changes. Very, very flexible. Flip over to the security side. Similarly, firewall as a service. If you have 1,000 employees working from home using their home computer on residential internet service with a residential quality firewall, that's not going to make you happy, and it's not going to make your stakeholders happy. And you really can't picture yourself going out and installing an industrial strength firewall in all 1,000 homes. The security side of SASE, firewall as a service, solves that. Everybody gets a firewall, but it's all being sourced from the internet. It all comes to them from the cloud. And so there's no need for additional hardware. You've got that agility, that ability to update the firewalls, to update the security rules, the security signatures. If you look at all of the different services and all of the different alphabet soup that I've arranged here, they're all cloud services. They're all cloud services. And so this is as hybrid as it gets. You're sourcing all kinds of different cloud services to make it possible for you to manage your network, manage your security, manage your data, and use the hybrid nature of your implementation to pick and choose the services you want to achieve the solutions you want at a higher level of efficiency, effectiveness, and cost effectiveness than you ever have before. In essence, we've achieved that panacea that we keep on talking about. One ring to rule them all, one platform to manage them all. We're getting closer and closer to that. And a hybrid approach begins with an open mind. So have an open mind to hybrid approaches, hybrid services, and pick and choose what you want from where you want it. Figure out how to make it work together. That's the key to successful hybrid computing. John, with that, do we have any questions?
We do, in fact, have a few questions. Thank you, Howard. That was fascinating. I think I want to start the Q&A with a question from Key, which is a question that I get asked myself quite a bit. Will we ever get to the place where there's nothing left on-prem?
Will we ever get to the place where there's nothing on-prem? I think you have to qualify. I think you have to qualify the question. And if you think about it, if you're sitting at home with a laptop, that laptop is on-prem. So there's always going to be some hardware that's on-prem.
Yeah.
The issue, I think, is will we ever get to the place where the network core will be completely off-prem, where it'll be in cloud data centers? And I think that for some people, we are already there. There are some serverless environments now where everything they're using from the cloud. And there are no servers in their own facilities. As a matter of fact, since COVID, there's no people. There's no facilities. Everybody is been spread to wherever it is they can be. I think we will get to the place where our premises will not be on premises. And quite honestly, I don't really see a problem with that beyond the fact that people like to be close to other people. So we're going to have to figure out how to make that happen. I guess we're all going to have to go to Cancun together on a President's Club trip.
That's great. Just a reminder to all the attendees that you can still enter your questions into the Q&A box anytime. So I've got a question here from, I'm going to get the pronunciation wrong, but I'll give it a try. Malathi, how easy is it to move away from one cloud provider to another vendor? Maybe what are some of the challenges there?
There are more contractual challenges than there are technical challenges. That's what I have found. Most cloud providers will give you a month-to-month program or a limited out program. You may sign up for a year, but you can get out with 30 days written notice. It varies from cloud to cloud. But by and large, you pay as you go. And therefore, it's a matter of making a migration from one to the other. And it may not even be that. If you have your data all stored in one place and you want to move from one SaaS service to another similar SaaS service, you've really just got to do some data mapping to make sure that you can connect from the new service the way you did from the old service. Technologically, it's relatively, I don't want to say simple, nothing is simple, but it's relatively straightforward. It's not, that shouldn't be your limiter. If you're careful about the contract you sign, you won't have almost any limiters at all.
Fascinating. Here's one from Shauna. She's wondering, we're using Dropbox in my company. Can we also use OneDrive at the same time? Is there anything special we need to do? Will both of them work with all of our software?
I've got to tell you, you just described my world. I use multiple. No, it's true. It's true. I use multiple data storage services for a variety of reasons. For example, I do use Dropbox for most of my day-to-day file work. This way, wherever I am, whatever device I'm on, I can just reach out and get my files. But I have all of my Dropbox backed up on Amazon Drive. All of it. There's a total duplicate of it there. I have all of my Microsoft OneNote and other files on OneDrive because Microsoft makes it very easy to use OneDrive for that. Although they are starting to integrate Dropbox and other services, it's still much simpler to use OneDrive for that. So again, it's the same thing. Use the service that makes the most sense for what you want to do. One doesn't stop you from using another. They're independent of each other. It's kind of like having 3 file cabinets in front of you. One's marked D for Dropbox, one is O for OneDrive, and the other one is A for Amazon, right? You just take a file folder out of one and you move it into another. It really is that simple. And so, the answer is yes. You can use as many of the cloud services as makes sense for what you're doing. The issue of cost effectiveness comes up there.
Fascinating. So we just got a question from Wes, and I want to be sure I get this right. So he's wondering, does Windows 11 forcing TPM help security in the cloud? Aren't there plenty of serial numbers in existing hardware to identify a machine, such as the network card, CPU, serial, SSD, /HDD serials, IPs? Did that make sense? Did I get that right?
Not totally. Well, actually, I think Chris is online. Chris, did that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does, and it actually plays into a lot of what's going on in the industry. You're absolutely right. I've got serial numbers on my hard drive. I've got serial numbers on my CPU. I think I have a serial number on my desk here. But when we're talking about these type of interconnected services, we're really talking about, it gets back to that zero trust piece of the puzzle. So it's not enough for us to piggyback a lot of other entities, logical entities, software entities on top of that CPU serial number. And we'll talk about this in a few minutes, but I want my Metallic process in the cloud, which is secure and air-gapped, to talk to a Metallic widget on-prem. I need that widget to have a secret key. It needs to have its own clear identity. And your Windows platform is talking to so many objects and so many things, and it needs to be that primary locus of control, whether it's talking to the hardware and that's a secure connection, or whether it's talking to some of the SaaS applications out there from Microsoft or others.
Great.
That was the voice of Christopher Hill, Senior Director of Sales Engineering at Metallic, a Commvault venture. He will be joining us to provide a 10-minute presentation shortly and a demo, as well as another Q&A at the end. But, hey, we might as well just wade in whenever. Let's see. We've got so Wes has another question. He's wondering, when looking at Amazon console and policy rules versus Google Cloud versus Dropbox and more, is Amazon details actually helpful or just more complex? I guess I'll throw that out to either of our speakers. What do you guys think? Well, I think that answers that question. Let's see.
They're all pretty independent services, so one will not impact the others.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so one person's asking here, let's see, why can't we use the same management software we've always used to manage hybrid cloud networks? What do you guys think about that? Let's start with with Howard.
For what it's worth, I've been asking that question for about 15 years. There were so many great management consoles that came out since 2000, I guess. And I think that slowly but surely, those providers and other providers are replicating the functionality in new consoles. It's somewhat trickier in the cloud environment because of what I said earlier, that they all have different specifications. They also all have different quirks that you have to account for as well. I think what you're going to find, though, is that, and what I've seen is every passing year, the functionality of these consoles gets better and better. I think what we're looking at now is a change, though, from what used to be, best-of-breed management tools, really the best of platforms. Going forward, I think you're going to see unified platforms that bring everything together with one interface, one way of working, one set of training, one support resource. It's going to make it much less expensive and much more efficient for everybody to manage all the different things they need to manage. So that's where I think that's going.
You know, Howard, that was an absolutely great presentation. I think that's all the time we have for your part in today's Coffee Talk.